if you're tired of talking about drought, let's talk hurricanes. I'm Feedstuffs editor Andy Vance in for Max Armstrong, and this Dateline Drought update is brought to you by Genuity Drought Guard Hybrids. We've been talking about drought for so long now, it feels odd to talk about a weather pattern other than hot, dry conditions, but that's exactly what forecasters, newsmakers, and certainly farmers and grain merchants are talking about this week: hurricane. Hurricane Category 1, what has been known as Tropical Storm Isaac up to this point, expected to make landfall today into tomorrow down in the Gulf Coast. Ranging from Florida all the way through to Mississippi, the effects of this tropical storm, the hurricane, are going to be fairly far-flung and certainly have an impact on agriculture and grain movement. While much of the Gulf Coast is battened down the proverbial hatches to deal with the impact of the storm, the approach may put grain handlers and shippers' severe action plans to the test. Of course, as you can imagine, following events like Hurricane Katrina and other named storms of the past decade, companies like Cargill and ADM have put a lot more thought into what they do in the case of a major hurricane or tropical storm making landfall in the all-too-important export region of the Port of New Orleans and the surrounding areas. ADM and Cargill earlier this week announced they were shutting down some key export elevators. Cargill put two of its plants on standby in West Wego and Reserve. ADM shut down four of its locations in the New Orleans metro area. The Coast Guard started taking action, shutting down the Southwest Pass of the lower Mississippi River yesterday as well because of some of the adverse weather conditions. USDA's chief meteorologist Brad Rippey said the storm expected to make landfall as a Cat 1 hurricane later today with a coastal storm surge of 6 to 12 feet in southeastern Louisiana and southern portions of Alabama and Mississippi. Noted that once inland, Isaac will likely slow, but it'll be a pretty wide storm. It'll move into drought-affected areas of the Mid-South and southern Midwest. And while it's too early to determine exactly where or how much rain might fall at certain locations, any moisture in the drought-affected part of the center of the country will certainly revive pastures and help to boost soil moisture ahead of winter wheat planting. Of course, it's probably far too late to do anything for the corn crop, as you well know, with harvest underway at this point. 6% of the nation's corn already in the bins, according to this week's crop progress report out Monday evening. But the question is whether or not some timely rains could yet benefit soybeans, but especially how it might affect farmers' plans for next season. Winter wheat would be the first thing that comes to mind. According to Farm Futures' survey of growers released this week at the Farm Progress Show, farmers are already planning to plant more soybeans and more wheat and less corn, relatively speaking. Of course, you have to remember we planted a record 75-year record anyway corn acreage this year, and while many of those acres have been abandoned due to the drought, it's probably not surprising that farmers would look to get their rotations back in order instead of just pumping more corn acres again next year. You can read more about all those stories, of course, at feedstuffs.com and here at DatelineDrought.com. I'm Feedstuffs editor Andy Vance in for Max Armstrong, who I'm sure you'll look forward to meeting at the Farm Progress Show. And now, here's a look at the markets.
This is Arlen Suderman in for Bryce Knorr, who's still on assignment today. And taking a look at the commodity markets on this Tuesday, August 28th, we saw a market that was primarily drifting. We're reporting to you from the Farm Progress Show, where the central topic is the drought and the impact on the markets and how its impact continues to linger. Continues to be a lot of debate in the trade about what the actual size of the crops are, how badly have they been hurt, with bulls saying its estimates are lower than what USDA is indicating, and the bears saying it's higher, and so we're kind of drifting in a range-bound type of motion. First notice day for delivery against September contracts comes up on Friday, so we're seeing a general liquidation of positions ahead of first notice day. Soybeans are still maintaining some strength, modest strength though it is, maintaining a little bit of an upward bias because the traders seem to be buying into the crop losses a little bit more due to the drought in the soybean pits. They're less certain in the corn, getting a little bit more negative chart signals in the corn pit, and so we're leaking lower there. That's putting some pressure on the wheat market as well. We're looking at some remnants of moisture coming up from Hurricane Isaac over the next week to 10 days into the southern Midwest. Worried that that could push a lot of corn down with weak stock strength, also cause a lot of ear drop. That'll be one of the concerns we'll be watching over the next week. Traders keeping a close eye on that. September crop report will be coming up soon, and anticipate seasonal strength into that crop report as traders start to factor those losses into the market.